Today, I want to do a quick survival needs thought experiment. If we strip away all the BS, what do human beings really need to survive? I'm not talking about what makes us comfortable. I'm not discussing how to avoid injury or how to avoid disease. And I'm not trying to figure out what it takes to thrive. At the end of the day, what are the most basic of human needs for survival? The things we require to avoid premature death? Well, oxygen, water, food, shelter, and self-defense. That's it. If you plan for and you meet those following 5 needs, you have a reasonable chance of surviving any scenario. Hey, I'm Jack, and I'm the co-founder of SkilledSurvival.com and TheResilientLife.com. And I've been sharing my thoughts, tips, tricks, and strategies all related to survival and preparedness online since 2013. So if you enjoy this type of prepping content, make sure and subscribe to my channel. You should also pick up my free Prepper's Checklist. It's the best way I know to ensure you don't miss anything critical in your preps. Just look for the link below in the description. Okay, now let me get this out of the way. If all you're going to do is meet your very basic physical needs for survival, well, it won't be pretty. Hell, some folks may even argue that life might not be worth living in that condition. Because living merely to survive under horrible conditions will likely cause some permanent psychological damage. But with that said, your immediate physical needs will be met and you can survive. Now, I wanted to do this thought experiment because so many people are getting overwhelmed by all the prepping information out on the web today, especially those new to this. It's so easy to get overwhelmed and confused about how to begin. Unfortunately, for many, this equates to throwing in the towel and giving up altogether. So instead of putting forth the effort to become a more resilient human being, they just decide, hey, I'm fragile, I'm not going to worry about it. And if that's how you feel, then stay tuned because I'm about to break down these 5 essentials to survival. Then after you watch this video, I highly recommend you check out my 10 basic prepper steps video. Again, I'll put a link in the description below. It's one of the best ways to get started. All right, let's jump into the first survival priority, oxygen. The good news is there's not a lot you need to do to prepare for this one. Even in the end of the world as we know it survival scenario, there'll still likely be abundant amount of oxygen. And if not, well, we're all pretty much screwed anyway. The 2 big exceptions here are nuclear fallout and highly contagious airborne diseases, where the air you breathe is deadly. For those scenarios, all you need to do is get a great gas mask, stay indoors, and avoid all unnecessary interactions with others. Now, my favorite gas mask supplier by far is Mira Safety, and here's the gas mask I personally own. And they also provide filters for it. And this is a universal filter. It's sealed up. It should last about 20 years. And getting a few filters in a gas mask and you're done. It's a very wise thing to do to take care of the number 1 survival priority. The bottom line is, I think every household should own at least 1 gas mask and several of these filters at a very minimum. That way, should the air you breathe become toxic, at least 1 adult can leave the home for supply runs. Ideally now, you'll have 1 gas mask for each family member. And yes, Mira does have special gas masks for both youth and infants. Once you've met this hurdle, your first basic survival need is met. Number 2, water. Okay, this one's extremely important, and most of us know this. Humans require a lot of fresh water every single day. You just cut off your supply of water for just a few days, 3, 4, 5 days, you're going to get super dehydrated pretty quick. And if it's a hot, dry desert environment, it's 3 days is about what you're going to last. So we all know water is important. Now, water storage and water procurement and water filtration, well, it can get tricky. There's a lot of variables as far as how much space you have and whether you have access to fresh water nearby. Say you have a pond or a lake, and then you have to assume, hey, hopefully those don't get nuclear fallout in them, because then that would be a compromised source of water, and you'd want to have water storage. So anyway, the bottom line is it can get complicated fast depending on your situation. So instead, let's keep things simple. You have 2 basic choices for water acquisition. You can either live near a large and continuous source of natural fresh water, but again, in a nuclear fallout situation, that could even get compromised. Or number 2, you can stockpile a ton of the stuff. And ideally, I think everyone should stockpile at least some water. But regardless, Pick which strategy makes the most sense for you and get started. Now, I've written several articles. I'll put them in the link description below so you can read up on those as you decide which water containers and which water situation works best for you. I've personally gone with these Legacy Food Storage stackable 5-gallon containers. The reason I like these a lot is because 5 gallons stacked up high, you can keep expanding it as you go. You can buy 3 of these, you can buy 5 of these, and then later on, 6 months later, you can add to it. So you're always adding to your stockpile. Plus, when I go camping and I want to grab some water, boom, I can grab these and take them with me. So that works really well for me. They also provide a little water purification kit that goes with it. So it makes it really simple to get the water in there and the water to last a really long time once you have it stored. Now, humans, we need at least a half a gallon of water per day, per person per day. And that's to avoid any onset of dehydration. I personally think that's cutting it too close for your water storage. I think you should do 1 gallon per person per day. That way you have enough water for cooking and cleaning, and perhaps you have some pets. And that gives you a buffer to make sure you definitely have enough water. And then you multiply that by how many people and then how many days. Okay, so that'll give you some idea of how much water you want to store. So if you want to store water for 2 weeks, which is a great starting point for those who are just starting out, then you'll do the number of family members times 14. And that's how many gallons of water you need for a 2-week supply. And then once you have that in place, I highly recommend you look into getting a rainwater collection system on your roof system. So if you're collecting some water and then letting it go to your garden in the meantime, that's great. And in a survival situation, if it rains, you can then get your hands on some more fresh water, and you just need to filter that and then add it to your water stockpile. That way you have some means of collecting water in a survival situation should the taps go off, and you're running through your supply, but then hopefully you're adding some every now and again when it rains. You just got to pray that it rains often enough to offset your usage over time. Okay, number 3 is food or calories. Yes, you can go quite a while without food, but at some point, you must replace the calories you expend to avoid starvation. Heck, you can even go severely calorie negative for several weeks, but eventually, math wins. Calorie in versus calorie out. It's not complicated. And you'll need to find a balance. So let's attempt to keep this one simple as well. See, the way I see it, you have 2 basic choices. You can either stockpile a lot of food that have long shelf lives, or you can grow and raise your own food. To be honest, you should do both. Stockpiling food supplies won't last forever without a systematic replenishment plan, and without a decent sized initial food stockpile, you'll have a difficult time between growing seasons and lean times. So having a food plan in place and learning and growing with that and having some extra calories on hand is critical before a disaster. I can't imagine someone surviving very long improvising after a crisis on food procurement. And handouts, well, in the worst case scenario, they're not going to be likely. Here's one of my favorite vendors for survival food. It's Valley Food Storage right here. You can see, open this up, and there's just a bunch of freeze-dried foods. And that's a great plan to get yourself a month, 2 months, 6 months, a year, whatever you feel like you need. I think that if you're just starting out, 2 weeks of calories is what you need. In a worst case, you can go calorie deficient a little bit and extend that out. It's a great solution. And they also have, at the time I made this video, they had a deal where you could get some freeze-dried food and have it come for free. You just had to pay a reasonable shipping and handling fee. But a lot of people who follow me have taken us up on that offer, and it's been really helpful for them to try out some freeze-dried food and to see how it tastes, how the packaging looks before they commit to a larger purchase. Now, I just will say, it's not a 5-star quality meal with freeze-dried food, okay? You're reconstituting with heat and water, and it's going to be calories, okay? So it doesn't need to taste amazing, because I promise you, if you're on the brink of starvation, any calorie that's edible is going to taste fantastic, okay? So you don't have to really hone in on the taste as much as the quality, the nutritional amount, and things of that nature. So if that sounds like a good deal, head to the description below, click that link, check it out, and give it a test. Okay, survival priority number 4 is shelter. Now, even if it gets really cold outside, you can survive in the elements if you have a decent shelter to keep the wind and rain off of you. I like to keep a super lightweight tacked bivy with me at all times. I keep it in my everyday carry pack, and I also put one in each glove box of each car. A tack bivy uses super lightweight material called Mylar, and this material blocks all air molecules from moving through it. This includes heat. So you can trap your body heat inside of this Mylar lightweight sleeping bag, even in frigid cold temperatures. I think every car manufacturer should put one of these or something similar in every glove box they make. It could save lives when someone gets stuck out in a blizzard. And if you want to find a good deal on the tack bivy, this exact one that I have, go down in the link in the description below and click that and check it out. Now, you also want to have some basic fuel stockpiled for your home, like firewood or kerosene, and ration it smartly. Then you can stay warm even in the most frigid nights. Just make sure you have some backup survival shelter options that don't rely on the power grid. So that's it. Some kind of alternative non-power grid fuel source that you're stockpiling, whether that's kerosene or firewood, and then having some kind of wood stove or rocket stove or some way to heat home safely, okay, a kerosene heater, things like that, and then a tack bivy or some kind of bivy bag made of Mylar that you can then jump into in a worst case scenario. Okay, survival priority 5, self-defense. When humans are desperate, we'll default to a dog-eat-dog mentality. If you have no self-defense weapons or gear or skills, you'll be at the mercy of those who have a killer instinct. So you need a self-defense plan. Now, you have many choices in this realm of survival, and in my opinion, you can never have too many self-defense skills. So to try to keep things simple, I suggest starting with pepper spray. It's easy to use, it's simple, it's effective. Now, in a worst case scenario, pepper spray is not going to cut it. That's more for your everyday self-defense, okay? But for a longer term survival scenario, you're going to need a firearm, I think. You need to learn how to use it, and you need to store a bunch of ammo for it. To go over it one more time, 1, invest in a good gas mask. 2, figure out your best water procurement options and implement. 3, invest in your food stockpiling plan and implement. 4, ensure you have a decent shelter, preferably with firewood available. 5, get some self-defense weapons and skills. Now, if you're still watching this video, you obviously enjoy this type of content. So take a second to subscribe to this channel right now and hit the bell notification. That way you never miss a new video. Also, snag my Prepper's Checklist to make sure you're always working towards becoming more prepared and you're not missing something critical on your journey to becoming more resilient. Okay, until next time, prepare, adapt, and overcome.